All right, back to war. Today, U.S. officials are set to arrive in Pakistan for a new round of peace talks led by the Vice President, J.D. Vance. But Iran is reportedly refusing to come to the table?
So this all comes as Tehran vows retaliation after the United States seized one of their ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
Our chief foreign correspondent, Trey Yingst, joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest this morning. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Overnight, CENTCOM announced that U.S. forces seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman after it tried to breach the naval blockade. President Trump announced the seizure on Truth Social overnight, saying, quote, the Iranian crew refused to listen, so our Navy ship stopped them right in their tracks by blowing a hole in the engine room. Right now, U.S. Marines have custody of the vessel. The ship remains in U.S. custody. Here's what it sounded like when the guided missile destroyer USS Spruance warned the cargo ship before firing.
Vessel Toska, Loto Vessel Toska, vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
At least two dozen other vessels were turned around over the weekend, complying with U.S. orders. The incident came 24 hours after Iran's IRGC fired on two vessels trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz in violation of the ceasefire. Now the question remains if a broader agreement will be reached this week. The ceasefire is set to expire in less than 48 hours. I spoke with President Trump over the weekend, who told me if the deal isn't done, the deal that we made, then I'm going to take out their bridges and their power plants. He went on to say, if they don't sign this thing, the whole country is going to get blown up. Now, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson today held a press conference saying the Iranians have not yet agreed to talks on Tuesday and that they are currently reviewing U.S. proposals. Guys?
So there's a chance, Trey, that we have a vice president going 18 hours to Pakistan to meet with an empty room.
Yes. At this point, the Iranians say they've not yet agreed to attend these talks on Tuesday. And overnight, state media was saying the talks weren't even going to take place. The Iranians have played these games before and then ultimately showed up at the negotiating table. But this is largely considered the last chance for the Iranians. When I spoke with the president over the weekend, he was very clear. They are going to sign on the dotted line, or he's going to target their bridges and power plants. And it's a decision that Iranian officials have to make. And I'm told by regional sources today there is a divide among Iranian leadership about what to do and whether or not to call the president's bluff. But the president isn't bluffing. This is a very similar situation that we saw before Operation Epic Fury began. The United States is giving the Iranians an off-ramp here, a chance at diplomacy. And if they don't take it, the war is expected to resume. Guys?
Trey, what's the latest with the U.S. Marines that did board that vessel in the middle of the ocean? Because we saw some video of them going down from the helicopter and landing on that vessel, the Iranian vessel. Are our men and women who are doing this, are they okay?
Yeah, we understand that they're okay and they still have control of this Iranian flag cargo ship. This is a significant moment because it is an indication that if the Iranians try to test the U.S. naval blockade, their ships will be seized. And we talked about this. U.S. Marines boarding vessels. And this is exactly what happened yesterday when they tried to test the resolve of the U.S. Navy. We do know that at least 24 ships actually turned around and they heeded the warnings from U.S. forces in the region. But these warnings were very clear. They were put out over radios directly to the vessels saying that if you approach this line, this blockade, your ships will be seized. Warnings were even given to this cargo ship and they didn't heed the warnings. And ultimately this led to U.S. forces firing on the engine room of the vessel, stopped the vessel in its tracks, and then those U.S. forces boarded the cargo ship.
All right, Trey Yingst, thanks so much. So it looks like the Iranians are playing games again. They said, the foreign minister spokesperson, that the United States hasn't learned from its past lessons. They're saying that they can't negotiate with the United States because they've been attacked during previous negotiations. And they're saying that the naval blockade was a violation of the ceasefire. Okay, whatever. But what worries me is that Pakistan is trying to convince the president of the United States to end the blockade because they feel like that's hurting negotiations. I'm sorry, that's just a non-starter. And if I'm the president of the United States, there's no way I'm sending the vice president to negotiate with these people. They're playing games. They're trying to delay. And it doesn't look like the leadership there has any control of the IRGC. They're attacking on their own right now.
Well, you heard what the president said. They violated the blockade. So that's their first violation over the last 24 hours. And then the president said, fine, I'll threaten to blow up the bridges. I'll threaten to blow up the power plants if no deal is made.
Yeah, there's a new person in charge. It looks like the IRGC commander, Ahmed Vahidi, and other members of the inner circle have basically told the foreign minister to step back. So the foreign minister, as intransigent as he's been in the past, was considered less than a hardliner, but he was somebody looking for a grand bargain. The IRGC is not. So they're more fatalist. They actually want to go back to fighting. As far as I can tell, they want to go back to the fight. And they maybe have to pay the ultimate price because they don't feel like they're beat up enough. And we have not even touched another one of their Iranian nuclear facilities, his Pickaxe facility, which we don't seem to have. There are no munitions on the planet that can penetrate deep into the mountain.
And the foreign minister is the one that has the relationship with Jared and with Witkoff. He's been the one negotiating with them so far.
I know. That's
maybe they're not happy with him.
Yeah, I just think they have two ultimate goals. I think some of the political guys want to stop it now and see, do the best deal they can get. The IRGC thinks they're winning. By surviving, they think they're winning, and then they'll solidify more support.
Well, they also have disjointed leadership as well. You got the one person that's running the IRGC, but they're also broken into these little militias. And so you have these people that are hardliners, and they want to fight to the very end. It's a suicide mission, but they don't care about it. It's unfortunate what's going to happen to the country their country as a result of their hatred in their heart.
And what's even more unfortunate is to know that there are Americans here that live on our soil that are trying to help the Iranian government. There was a lady that was arrested, a female Iranian national arrested at LAX at the airport over the weekend. And the federal authorities say she's 44 years old. This happened Saturday night on suspicion of trafficking weapons on behalf of the Iranian government.
Yeah, she's from Iran. Shamim Mafi, 44 years old, as you mentioned. She arrested right before she was set to board a flight to Turkey, an Iranian national and a lawful permanent U.S. resident. We see all these, the things that came over the last few weeks is that we have all these Iranian officials who have friends and family teaching at our colleges, living amongst us, a life of luxury. And this woman is actually trying to sell and buy drones while living in this country.
Yeah, so we already know the threat that Iran poses. We know that they have tried to kill American citizens. We know they've tried to kill refugees that are supportive of the United States. And it appears that no vetting was done on this person. Kudos to the FBI, though, Ainsley, for being able to capture her before she completed her plan.
Yeah, she's expected to appear in a U.S. district court this afternoon in L.A. She faces up to 20 years if she's convicted. She's an Iranian national, became a lawful permanent U.S. resident in 2016. You mentioned FBI. Here's Chris Swecker, former assistant FBI director.
We had 4 years of open borders, probably more than that under other administrations. And, the Iranians have been doing this for a long, long time. I've been personally associated with cases where the Iranians were violating sanctions, operating in the United States, trying to get their hands on sources of income, technology, and that sort of thing. I mean, they were strapped for cash, so they were conducting all kinds of criminal activities here in the United States. This is the type of thing that they blend in with that big surge of illegal immigrants that came in during the Biden administration, and it made it 10 times more difficult to find these people and understand what they're doing in the United States.
Yeah, he makes a great point about the illegals that we don't know about. What concerns me about this process, whether it's this situation or, Soleimani, his relatives, they came here legally. We let them in. They went through a process and we gave them temporary protective status or resident status. In this case, this is not an open borders problem. This is a government failure problem, allowing people into the country without doing the proper vetting. So that should concern everyone.
Well, this lady, I don't know if we mentioned this, she was brokering the sale of drones, bomb fuses, and millions of rounds of ammo manufactured by Iran. Glad they caught her.
Well, I imagine there's many more out there. It seems like we're very slow to get to this, but at least we're getting some of them now. We'll see what happens. It's going to be within our show. We'll probably find out if J.D. Vance is heading over. Yeah. Because if he's heading over and they're going to go to the embarrassment of not showing up, the ceasefire's over Tuesday. Yeah. But the ceasefire's over Tuesday. Did anyone talk about extending it? And if you don't show up for this, that means you want the ceasefire to end. So the answer is game on. We got to find it. We're going to have to physically open up and take control of that strait.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.